The alarm goes off at 6:02 a.m. Sloane Whitfield doesn't move right away. She lies on her side of the king-sized bed, her side, always her side, and stares at the ceiling of their Upper East Side apartment, while Manhattan begins its slow, indifferent hum outside the window. The light through the curtains is gray and thin. November. She reaches for her phone. Force of habit. Check the time. Check messages. Check the joint account notification app she set up 3 weeks ago and never told Carter about. There it is. Prescott Amex Platinum. Transaction approved. $847. Four Seasons Hotel Manhattan. 5:58 a.m. Sloane sits up slowly, sets the phone face down on the nightstand, breathes. Carter told her he was boarding a 6 a.m. flight to Los Angeles, a development meeting, and he'd kissed her on the forehead 2 nights ago. She remembers the chill of his lips, how she'd pretended to be half asleep, and said, "I'll be back Thursday. Don't wait up." The Four Seasons Manhattan is 11 blocks from their apartment. She gets up, makes coffee, pours a bowl of cereal for Noah before he wakes up, sets it on the table with a spoon and a folded paper towel because she forgot to buy napkins again. Normal morning. She is very good at normal mornings now. Noah comes out at 6:40, hair sticking up on one side, his dinosaur backpack already on like he sleeps in it. He's 6 years old and takes school very seriously. "Mommy, where's Daddy's bag?" Sloane looks up from her coffee. "What bag, baby?" "The big suitcase. It's still in the hall closet." Noah points. "And there's a lady's scarf in it. It's purple and sparkly." Sloane sets her mug down. She walks to the hall closet and opens it. Carter's rolling suitcase, the one he supposedly packed for Los Angeles, is standing exactly where it always lives. She unzips the front pocket. Inside, a folded purple scarf, silk, smelling faintly of something floral and expensive. Not her perfume, not anything she owns. She zips the pocket closed. "Go eat your cereal," she says to Noah. Her voice is perfectly steady. "We leave in 20 minutes. After she drops Noah at school, she sits in a taxi heading back uptown and makes one phone call. "Marcus," she says when he picks up. "It's time." Marcus Lane's office on the 31st floor of a midtown building smells like old books and strong coffee. He is 45 years old, gray at the temples, with the calm of a man who has seen too many crises to be rattled by any of them. He shakes Sloane's hand like she's a client, which she now is, and gestures to the chair across from his desk. "How long have you known?" he asks. 4 months, Sloane says. The first charge showed up on the Amex in July, a florist in Beverly Hills. Carter's allergic to peonies. She pauses. The bouquet was all peonies. Marcus nods. He opens a folder on his desk and slides it toward her. Inside, financial statements, emails printed on clean white paper, and a document with a blue cover that she recognizes immediately. The original incorporation papers for Prescott Capital Group. Her father's handwriting is in the margins. "Your father built this company from nothing," Marcus says. "And when he got sick, he knew Carter would come in. He liked Carter, back then. But he was careful." He taps the blue document. "There is a clause in this incorporation agreement, Sloane, buried in Section 14C. It was written by your father's attorney, me, in 2016. She leans forward. The clause: in the event that the marriage between Carter James Prescott and Sloane Ann Whitfield is dissolved due to proven marital fault by Carter Prescott, all voting shares held under the Prescott Family Trust shall revert to the Whitfield Family Irrevocable Trust, of which Sloane Whitfield is sole beneficiary." Sloane reads it twice, then a third time. "He never told me," she says. "He didn't want you to feel like the marriage was a contract," Marcus says, "but he wanted you protected." She looks out the window at the gray Manhattan skyline. The same city. Everything different. "Oh, Carter doesn't know about this clause?" His lawyers reviewed a summary document, not the full agreement. It wasn't included. Marcus folds his hands. But I need to warn you, if someone tips him off before we file... His desk phone rings. He glances at it. His face shifts slightly. Barely. But Sloane catches it. "What?" she says. "It's my assistant. Carter's car was spotted parking downstairs 11 minutes ago." Marcus stands. He came back early, and he brought Gregory Falk with him. Sloane doesn't move. She takes one slow breath. Then she straightens her jacket, picks up her bag, and says, "Then let's not keep him waiting." Carter recovers fast. He always does. "Sloane." He says her name like a greeting and a warning at once. "What are you doing here?" "Meeting my attorney," she says. "Same as you." Gregory Falk, mid-50s, a gray suit, the particular confidence of a man who bills $900 an hour, steps forward. "Ms. Whitfield, I think it would be better for everyone if we handled this through proper channels. My client has a proposal." "Your client," Marcus says pleasantly, "can direct any proposals through me." He hands Falk a business card. "Shall we find a conference room?" They use the small one on the 31st floor. 8 chairs, a glass table, a view of nothing in particular. Carter sits across from Sloane. This is the closest they've been in months. He looks tired under the expensive grooming. Tired and certain, which is a dangerous combination. Carter slides a folder across the table. Settlement terms. Sloane doesn't open it. $2 million, Falk says, plus the Brooklyn apartment and full coverage of Noah's school tuition through college. Mr. or Prescott will retain primary custody with generous visitation. Generous visitation, Sloane repeats. Every other weekend, major holidays alternating. He wants every other weekend with his son. Sloane's voice is quiet and precise. 6 years old, every other weekend. Carter doesn't blink. It's what's best for Noah's stability. I have the resources, the structure. You have $847 on the Four Seasons this morning, Sloane says, while your suitcase was still in our hall closet. Silence. Carter's jaw tightens. He looks at Falk. Marcus opens his own folder. He slides across a single page, the 14C clause, certified copy. Before we discuss any settlement, Mr. Falk, your client should be aware of this document, specifically what triggers it, and what it means for the 51% of Prescott capital currently held in trust. Falk reads it. His expression doesn't change, but his hand goes still on the table. Carter grabs the paper, reads it again. This is... He looks at Marcus. This isn't valid. This can't be enforceable. It was filed with the state in 2016 and has never been amended, Marcus says. It is entirely enforceable. Carter stands abruptly. His chair scrapes the floor. He walks to the window and stands there, back to the room. Sloane watches him. The perfect suit, the rigid shoulders, the Rolex on his wrist that she bought him for his 35th birthday. She feels nothing she expected to feel. Not satisfaction. Not grief. Just a cold, clear stillness, like ice forming over still water. I'll give you a week, Marcus says to Falk, to review with your client and respond. After that, see we file. The coffee shop on West 74th Street is the kind of place nobody from Brianna Voss's Instagram would ever photograph. Paper cups, wobbly tables, a handwritten menu on a chalkboard. She chose it. She arrived first. She's sitting with her hands wrapped around a cup when the woman slides into the seat across from her. Not Sloane. Someone else. A woman in her late 30s with short natural hair and a caution in her eyes that comes from having survived something. Her name is Ashley Park. She was Carter Prescott's executive assistant for 4 years. I don't have long, Ashley says. You sent me the file, Brianna says. It's not a question. Ashley shakes her head. I didn't send it to you. I sent it to his wife. She corrects herself deliberately. To Sloane. Brianna sits back, and her beauty is real and effortless, and she uses it the way some people use silence, as a tool, not an accident. But today she looks different. There are shadows under her eyes that no filter fixes. Then why are you talking to me? Brianna asks. Because you're in those emails too, Ashley says. She slides a printed page across the table. A single email, dated March 14th, 2020. Sender, Trevor Cole. Recipient, Brianna Voss. Brianna doesn't touch the paper. She already knows what it says. The email is 3 sentences. Carter is ideal, connected enough to access the Whitfield inheritance, naive enough to think he's in charge. Bring him in slowly. We need 18 to 24 months before we move. Ashley watches her. Trevor recruited you. You recruited Carter. The whole romance, the gala, the relationship, what pushing him toward divorce, it was all part of getting control of Prescott Capital before the old man's clause could be triggered. That's one interpretation, Brianna says carefully. There are 63 emails, Ashley says, 3 voice memos, and a wire transfer from a Trevor Cole LLC to a holding company registered in your name, dated 4 months before you met Carter at the Ritz-Carlton Gala. She pauses. You were never in love with him. He was a vehicle. The coffee shop is quiet. A bus groans past outside. Brianna looks out the window for a long moment. When she turns back, something in her face has shifted. Something unguarded and almost frightened. Trevor is going to cut me out, she says quietly. He already is. I was useful until I wasn't. It happens on a Tuesday. Sloane is in the middle of a conference call. She's picked up 2 freelance design contracts since pulling back from the company. Enough to stay busy, enough to feel like herself again. When the second phone buzzes. School number. She takes the call. The assistant principal's voice is careful and apologetic, and says words that Sloane has to make her repeat. According to a request filed this morning by Mr. Carter Prescott, Noah's emergency contact and authorized pickup list has been updated. Until further legal clarification, our policy requires that he's my son, Sloane says. Her voice is very controlled. I am his mother. We understand, Ms. Whitfield, but the documentation Mr. Prescott's attorney filed indicates a temporary. She's already putting on her coat. She gets to the school in 12 minutes. The front office has 3 staff members, one of whom is on the phone, one of whom is clearly the decision maker, and one of whom looks genuinely sorry. The security guard is by the door, young, uncomfortable, doing his job. Sloane does not raise her voice. She presents her ID, Noah's birth certificate photo on her phone, and her own business card. She asks to speak directly with the principal. While she waits, she texts Marcus. They updated the pickup authorization. I'm at the school. Fix this today. The principal comes out. There is a conversation. It is tense and formal and completely insufferable. And then Noah appears at the end of the hall, his class returning from the gym, and sees her through the glass partition. His face lights up. He waves both arms like she's been gone for a year. The guard steps aside. The principal, to his credit, lets her through. But outside, in the car, with Noah buckled into the back seat asking about dinosaurs, Sloane grips the steering wheel and understands what just happened. That was not a legal maneuver. That was a message. We can reach him anywhere. She texts Marcus again. Carter filed a psychological instability claim this morning, didn't he? The response comes in 60 seconds. Yes. They submitted a petition for emergency custody modification. Hearing is in 8 days. They have a private investigator on you. Be careful what you do and where you go. Noah leans forward from the back seat. Mommy, are you okay? She looks at him in the rearview mirror, his bright, serious eyes, his father's jaw, her own stubbornness already showing in the set of his mouth at age 6. "I'm great, baby," she says. "Want to get hot chocolate?" Dorothy Prescott lives in a pre-war co-op on Fifth Avenue that smells like white lilies and old money. She opens the door herself. No housekeeper today, which means this conversation was always going to happen. Sloane stands in the entry. "I wouldn't have come if I had another option." "I know," Dorothy says. "Come in." They sit in the formal living room. Tea appears without being asked for. Outside, Central Park is doing its November best. Bare trees, a flat sky, the occasional runner below. Dorothy sits perfectly upright, her hands folded, her face showing nothing it doesn't choose to show. "He filed to take Noah," Sloane says. "You know that." "I do." "And you're going to let it happen." Dorothy is quiet for a moment. Then, "I told myself for years that Carter's choices were his own, that whatever mistakes he made, he was still my son, and a mother's job is loyalty." She pauses. "I was wrong about what loyalty means." Sloane waits. "Carter is not Lawrence Prescott's biological son," Dorothy says. The room is very still. "Lawrence never knew. He died not knowing, and I was grateful for that." Dorothy's voice doesn't shake. It is the voice of someone who rehearsed this for years before deciding never to say it, and has now decided. "Carter's biological father is Trevor Cole." Sloane stares at her. "Trevor and I had an affair in 1987. It ended badly. He is, not a good man. When I realized I was pregnant, Lawrence and I had just reconciled. I made a decision." She smooths her skirt. "It was the worst decision I ever made. Not because of Carter, because Trevor never stopped knowing. And when Carter became useful to him, he used that knowledge." Sloane thinks of the voice on Carter's phone that Marcus described. "I've always known about the clause." Trevor Cole has known from the beginning about the clause, about the company, about Carter. He has been positioning his own biological son without Carter ever knowing he was being moved across a board. "There's more," Dorothy says. She stands, goes to a drawer in the side table, and returns with an envelope. Inside, a folded lab report. 2014. DNA confirmation. Dorothy's handwriting at the top. In case I'm not here to tell it myself. "I had it done privately 10 years ago," she says. "I don't know what it changes, but it belongs to you now." The video is 43 seconds long, so Gregory Falk presents it in court documents as Exhibit C in Carter's petition for emergency custody modification. The timestamp reads 11:47 p.m. The location, a coffee shop on Amsterdam Avenue. The footage is grainy but clear enough. Sloane, sitting across from a man, leaning forward, talking. The man's hand on the table near hers. The man is Marcus Lane, her attorney, her father's oldest friend. But the video cuts before he hands her documents, before she opens her legal folder. It cuts at the exact moment that, without context, looks like something intimate. The hearing is at 9 a.m. Sloane sits beside Marcus in the courtroom and watches the judge review the filing. She is wearing a dark blazer. She has not slept more than 4 hours. Beside her, Marcus is calm. He is always calm. But his pen is clicking, which means he is not as calm as he appears. Falk addresses the court. The petitioner submits that Ms. Whitfield has demonstrated patterns of erratic behavior, secretive meetings, and emotional volatility that raise genuine concern for the welfare of a 6-year-old child. Marcus objects, presents context, presents his bar credentials, his relationship to the Whitfield family. Meeting logs showing the coffee shop encounter was a scheduled legal consultation at 11:45 p.m. because it was the only time available around court filings. The judge reviews everything carefully, and then she says the words. Pending a full investigation, this court will modify temporary custody to primary placement with the father, effective immediately, with supervised visitation rights for the mother 3 days per week. The courtroom doesn't spin. Anna just goes very, very quiet inside Sloane's chest. She hears Marcus saying something, objecting, citing, requesting reconsideration. She hears Falk's smooth, practiced response. She is aware of Carter somewhere behind her, though she doesn't turn around. She walks out of the courtroom on her own, down the long courthouse hallway with its fluorescent lights and its smell of old paper and industrial cleaner, through the heavy door, into the November air. She sits on the courthouse steps and calls Noah's school. The call goes to voicemail. She leaves a message, measured, specific, asking about Thursday's pickup schedule. She does not cry. Not here. She will not give this city that. The apartment is very quiet. Sloane sits on Noah's bed, but it still smells like him. That particular warm cereal and child scent that she has never been able to identify. But that is, she understands now, the smell of her entire heart walking around outside her body. His stuffed triceratops is still on the pillow. He forgot it in the chaos of the afternoon handoff. She'd stood on the sidewalk outside the courthouse and watched Carter's driver buckle Noah into the back of a black SUV, watched Noah's face in the window, confused, not crying, trusting that this was something the adults understood and would fix. She holds the triceratops. This is what losing looks like. Not dramatic, not cinematic. Just this. A quiet apartment, a small pillow, a child's toy in the hands of the person who loves him most. She has done everything right. She has documented everything, engaged the right attorney, and stayed composed in every room and hallway and courthouse corridor. And she is still sitting here, alone in the dark, holding a stuffed dinosaur. Her phone is on the nightstand. There are 7 unread texts. Marcus, her sister in Portland, 2 friends who heard the news, a number she doesn't recognize. She looks at all of them and opens none of them. She goes to the kitchen, pours water, stands at the window looking out at the building across the street. Lit windows, other lives, other people who are probably also losing things tonight in ways no one will document. The phone rings. Connecticut area code. Same number as before. She answers. Sloane. The voice is thinner than she remembers. Her father's voice, stretched and quieter, the way voices get when a body works too hard just to stay upright. But it is undeniably, completely his. You sound tired, sweetheart. Dad. Her own voice breaks on just the one syllable. I know, he says. I know. Listen to me. I don't have long before the night nurse does rounds, and I need you to hear this clearly. He pauses. A breath. I have not forgotten as much as they believe I have. I have been very careful about what I show them. Do you understand what I'm telling you? She does. In the house in Connecticut, he says. The old library. Behind the dictionary on the 3rd shelf, the big Oxford one. There is a key. Small, brass. It opens the firebox in the basement. And in the firebox, there is an envelope, and inside that envelope is a recording. What kind of recording? The kind, her father says slowly and carefully. That ends this. George Whitfield has been a resident of Harborview Memory Care in Greenwich, in Connecticut for 14 months. He has a sunny room, a view of a small garden, and a reputation among the staff as a gentle man who sometimes cannot remember what year it is. What the staff does not know, George Whitfield spent 40 years as a corporate attorney before building Prescott Capital Group from a folding table in a rented office in 1991. He played chess at a national level in college, He reads 2 newspapers a day when no one is watching, hiding them inside magazines. His Alzheimer's diagnosis is real. His decline is real. But it is slower than the paperwork suggests. And he has been conserving his clarity, his lucid hours, spending them carefully, like a man with a dwindling savings account who knows exactly what each dollar is worth. He started performing confusion 18 months ago, while when Trevor Cole began visiting the care facility with legal documents that George's doctor, a young man who trusted financial stakeholders more than he should, kept suggesting George sign. George signed nothing. He claimed not to understand the papers. He knocked a glass of water onto Trevor's briefcase. It bought him time. He called Sloan from a borrowed phone, a young night orderly, kind kid, 22 years old, who asked no questions when George quietly explained that he needed 5 minutes on a phone for something his family needed to hear. Now he waits. At 1:15 a.m., the light in the garden comes on, the motion sensor triggered by the wind, or a raccoon, or something. George watches it and thinks about the firebox in the Connecticut house. He installed it in 1998. He told no one but his attorney, Marcus, who has also known about it and kept that silence for 2 years. The recording in the firebox, a 47-minute audio file captured on a digital recorder in September 2020. George had called Trevor Cole on the pretext of finalizing a business transition, something Trevor was delighted to arrange, believing George was already confused enough to be managed. Trevor spoke freely. He always spoke freely when he believed he was the smartest person in the room. On that recording, Trevor Cole says, among other things, "Carter doesn't know I'm his father. He doesn't need to. He just needs to keep the wife in line long enough for us to execute the transfer. After that, she gets her $2 million and she disappears. And the clause doesn't matter if we discredit her first, make her unstable on paper, or use the kid. Custody battles break people. And Brianna knows what she signed up for. She'll get her cut. Then she'll go away too." George Whitfield listened to that recording in his Connecticut library in October 2020. Then he drove to Greenwich, checked himself into Harborview, and began the long, careful project of protecting his daughter from a distance. The Connecticut house is cold. Sloan hasn't been here in almost 2 years. Since Christmas of the year before her father moved to Harborview, when Noah was 4 and wore a paper crown at the dinner table, and her father laughed until he cried over something Noah said about turkeys. She unlocks the front door with her old key, Carter never had one, and steps into the dark. The electricity still works. Her father kept the utilities active. She moves through the living room, past furniture draped in white sheets that make the house look like a photograph of itself, into the old library at the back of the first floor. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, the smell of paper and cedar and something faint beneath it. Her father's aftershave, lingering in the fabric of the old armchair by the window. She finds the Oxford English Dictionary on the 3rd shelf. Massive, burgundy, 20 pounds of word and history. She pulls it out. The key is taped to the inside back cover. Small and brass, exactly as he said. The firebox is in the basement. A small fireproof safe, built into the concrete wall behind the furnace, installed so seamlessly that you'd have to know to look. Sloan finds it on the 2nd pass, crouching in the cold beside the furnace, flashlight on her phone. The key turns. Inside, a manila envelope and a thumb drive taped to it. On the envelope, in her father's handwriting, for Sloan. Use carefully. You'll know when. She opens the envelope, a single folded note, and beneath it a printed transcript. 47 pages, single-spaced, labeled. Audio recording. September 19th, 2020. GW personal device. She reads the first page, then the second. By the 3rd page, she is sitting cross-legged on the cold basement floor, her coat still on, reading with the phone flashlight because the basement light is too dim. She reads all 47 pages without stopping. When she finishes, she sits very still in the cold and the dark and the silence of her father's house. Then she takes out her phone and calls Marcus Lane at 3:17 a.m. He answers on the second ring, because Marcus Lane has been expecting this call for 2 years. "I have it," she says. "I know," he says. "I've known it was there. Your father made me promise not to tell you until you were ready." A pause. "Are you ready?" She looks around the basement, the furnace, the stone walls, the firebox that held her father's carefully assembled truth for 4 years, while he pretended to forget. "Yes," she says. Ashley Park lives in a third-floor walk-up in Astoria, Queens. The door has 3 locks. She added 2 of them herself after she left Carter's employment. The apartment is small and clean and has exactly 1 personal photograph visible. Her and an older woman, who must be her mother, standing in front of what looks like a cherry blossom tree. Sloan knocks at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. Ashley opens the door in a sweater and jeans, on coffee in hand, and looks at Sloan with the expression of someone who has been deciding for a long time whether to open this door and has finally just gotten tired of deciding. "I wondered when you'd find me," Ashley says. "You sent the emails to Marcus," Sloan says. "You've been waiting for someone to put it together." Ashley steps back. Sloan comes in. They sit at the small kitchen table. Ashley's hands wrap around her mug. She has the habit of holding warm things when she's uncomfortable, Sloan notes. Just a human thing. A telling detail. "I worked for Carter for 4 years, Ashley says. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't a bad person exactly. He was just someone who wanted to believe the people around him had his best interests at heart. He really believed Trevor was his mentor, his father figure." She pauses. "He doesn't know." "No," Sloan says. "He's going to find out in the worst possible way, isn't he?" "I don't know yet," Sloan says honestly. "But I need you to testify. I need you to walk into a courtroom and say what you saw, what you heard, what you know. I know what that costs." Ashley is quiet for a moment. Then she pushes back from the table, goes to a kitchen drawer, and returns with a hard drive. 4 years of emails, 12 recorded meetings. I started recording after I understood what I was in the middle of. Carter's voice, Trevor's voice, Folk's voice. All of it. She sets it on the table. "I've had this in my kitchen drawer for 14 months. I didn't know who was safe to give it to." Sloan picks it up. It's lighter than it looks. "Are you safe?" Sloan asks. "I think so," Ashley says. "I've been careful." "Don't go anywhere alone for the next week," Sloan says. "Don't take your usual routes. And call Marcus. I'll text you his number, and tell him you're ready to file an affidavit." Ashley nods. They stand. At the door, Ashley looks at Sloan steadily. "I'm sorry I didn't do this sooner," she says. "I kept thinking someone else would fix it." Carter Prescott pours scotch at 11 p.m. and does not drink it. He stands at the window of the apartment. Their apartment. Hers. The one he's been sleeping in alone while Sloan stays somewhere he doesn't know. And Noah sleeps in the guest room with his dinosaur toys and asks, quietly, when Mommy is coming over, and watches the city. His phone shows 42 messages. He reads none of them. He's thinking about a lunch he had with Trevor Cole 3 weeks ago. It's standard. Trevor, always commanding, always certain, hand on Carter's shoulder. "You're doing the right thing. This is the smart play. Sloan will be fine. She'll land on her feet. This is business." Carter had told himself it was guidance. He'd told himself he respected Trevor. He'd told himself a lot of things. But this morning he looked at the Prescott Capital Group quarterly reports, really looked, for the first time in months, and found a series of intra-company transfers he didn't authorize. Small amounts, 14 of them. Moving through a subsidiary he barely remembered approving, into an account he's never seen the documentation for. He calls the company's CFO, who is, he discovers, on a 2-week leave of absence that Trevor approved without telling Carter. He calls the company's general counsel, who was, it turns out, replaced last month by someone named Patterson, who reports directly to Trevor's office. Carter sits very still at his desk. He thinks about the recording his own private investigator sent him last week. Not about Sloan, but a side task he'd asked for. Background on Trevor Cole. Just due diligence, just to feel sure. The investigator found something odd. A Delaware LLC, registered in 2019. Co-ownership between Trevor Cole and a woman named Voss. Brianna Voss. Brianna, who he has not heard from in 3 weeks, who stopped returning his calls the same week he came back to New York. He pours the scotch down the sink. He gets in his car and drives to a building on West 86th Street, an address he looked up, found through a mutual contact, double-checked. He sits outside and calls Marcus Lane's personal number, or which he got from a legal directory. Marcus answers on the 3rd ring. "I need to speak to Sloan," Carter says. A pause. "Mr. Prescott." "Not as adversaries," Carter says. "I think we're both being played." The interior of Carter's car smells like his dry-cleaned suits and the particular kind of exhaustion that comes from being too proud to sleep. Sloan reads the documents. Twice. She doesn't speak. Carter watches her in his peripheral vision. The careful way she handles paper, the stillness of her face when she's processing something complicated. He remembers that stillness. He used to find it frustrating, that composure. He understands now that it was never coldness. It was competence. "How much of this did you know?" she asks. "None of it," Carter says. "Not Trevor, not Brianna, not the transfers. I thought—" He stops. "So I thought I was making a decision about my life. I didn't understand I was executing someone else's plan." "That's a comfortable thing to believe," Sloan says without cruelty, just factually. "I know." He doesn't argue. "Trevor has control of 31% of Prescott Capital through proxies I approved without reading the documentation carefully enough. Combined with the trust shares he's maneuvering for, if this transfer executes, he will have operational majority. Without a vote, without notice, 72 hours. And if we file an emergency injunction, it takes longer than 72 hours, Carter says, unless both principal shareholders file jointly." Sloan looks at him now. Directly. It is the first time she's looked at him directly since the courthouse. He looks different up close. Younger, somehow. Less finished. Like something has come off him. The performance of confidence that she spent 7 years watching him maintain. "You want me to sign with you?" she says. "I want to stop Trevor," Carter says. "And I understand that's not the same thing as asking you to forgive me. Or trust me. Or anything other than sign the document so that both of our names are on the injunction, and the transfer gets blocked tonight." The car is quiet. Outside, New York does what it always does. Indifferent, continuous, certain of its own importance. Sloan looks at the document Marcus prepared. Because Marcus prepared it, she realizes. Which means Marcus knew this moment was coming. Which means her father knew. The whole architecture of it, laid down in advance, waiting for her to walk through it. She picks up the pen from Carter's console. "Why, I need full custody restored by Monday," she says, "in writing, before I sign." Carter pulls out his phone and calls Falk. He fires Falk in 30 seconds flat. Then he calls his new attorney and dictates the custody terms. The document is drafted and sent to Marcus within the hour. Sloan signs the injunction at 12:47 a.m. Prescott Capital Group's boardroom is on the 24th floor of a midtown tower. Floor-to-ceiling glass, a view of the East River, a conference table that seats 20 and is currently occupied by 11 board members, who were told this was a routine quarterly review. Trevor Cole is already seated when the elevator opens. He is 61 years old, broad-shouldered, the kind of man who takes up space deliberately. Silver hair, a Mont Blanc pen, the settled confidence of someone who has won before and expects to win again. And he sees Carter come in first. Good. Then Marcus Lane. Less good, but manageable. He reaches for his coffee. Then Sloane walks in. Trevor sets the coffee down. She wears a dark blazer. Her hair is pulled back. She walks to the far end of the table, the chair directly opposite his, and sits down without looking at him. She opens a leather portfolio and sets it on the table with the particular efficiency of someone who has done this before and will do it again. "Ms. Whitfield," Trevor says, his voice smooth as poured concrete. "I don't believe you were on the agenda." "I hold 40% of this company," Sloane says, "per the original incorporation agreement, which Mr. Lane will now distribute to the board." Marcus stands and places a document in front of each board member. The room goes quiet in a specific way, the quiet of people reading something that changes what they thought they knew. Trevor's hand moves toward his Mont Blanc pen, controlled, still performing. "Whatever document that is," he says, "it should be reviewed by—" The door opens again. Brianna Voss does not walk in. A process server walks in. He hands Trevor Cole an envelope. Civil fraud complaint. Filed that morning. Trevor Cole and Trevor Cole Holdings, named as defendants. Signed by Marcus Lane on behalf of Sloane Whitfield and the Whitfield Family Trust. Trevor's jaw tightens. Barely. But Sloane sees it. And then Marcus says, "Additionally, the board should be aware that a criminal referral was filed with the district attorney's office yesterday. The referral includes documentary evidence and recorded testimony regarding conspiracy to commit corporate fraud, witness tampering," he pauses just slightly, "and one count of attempted interference with a material witness." Ashley Park, calling in from her hospital bed, her voice clear and measured and unafraid. "Mr. Cole," Sloane says, looking at him directly across the table for the first time, "the meeting is yours. Please proceed." The door at the back of the room opens. 2 men in dark jackets. One flashes a badge. The board is still seated. Nobody has left. That is the thing about rooms full of powerful people when the power dynamics shift. Everyone waits to see which way the weight settles before they move. Marcus clicks a remote. A screen descends at the far wall. The audio recording begins. George Whitfield's voice was strong despite everything, introducing the recording with the date and his name. Then Trevor Cole's voice fills the boardroom, casual, unguarded, speaking in the tone of a man who believes he is untouchable. "Carter doesn't know I'm his father. He doesn't need to." The room does not make a sound. Carter, seated midway down the table, goes absolutely still. Make her unstable on paper. Use the kid. Custody battles break people. Several board members exchange glances. One of them, an older woman, CFO of a partner firm, leans back in her chair and crosses her arms. Brianna knows what she signed up for. She'll get her cut. Then she'll go away. Marcus pauses the recording. The board now has the full transcript. What you've heard is approximately 4 minutes of 47. He picks up his notes. "I would like to direct everyone's attention to Exhibit 7, a wire transfer from Trevor Cole Holdings to a registered LLC co-owned by Brianna Voss, executed 6 weeks before Ms. Voss attended the Ritz-Carlton Gala, where she was introduced to Carter Prescott." Ashley Park's face appears on the conference screen. Video call from her hospital room, her arm in a sling, her voice absolutely level. "My name is Ashley Park," she says. "I was executive assistant to Carter Prescott for 4 years. I am prepared to testify under oath regarding the following communications, which I personally witnessed and, beginning in March 2021, personally recorded with the knowledge that they were part of a coordinated scheme to defraud the Whitfield Family Trust." She reads. She is precise, chronological, and devastating. When she finishes, one of the board members says quietly, "Where is Gregory Falk right now?" Marcus answers, "Mr. Falk's bar license was suspended this morning, pending an ethics investigation. He is aware of the investigation." In the far corner of the city, at this exact moment, Brianna Voss is sitting in the back of a rideshare with 2 rolling suitcases and a flight booked to Miami. Her phone is showing her 847 new notifications. Her Instagram account has been flagged and restricted, a precursor to suspension, following a report filed by the Whitfield legal team citing the account as instrumentally connected to ongoing fraud proceedings. Her lawyer has already texted twice. She doesn't open the messages. The courtroom is smaller than Sloan expected. Family court usually is. The proceedings intimate in a way that criminal court isn't. All the pain concentrated into a close space with fluorescent lights and wooden benches worn smooth by years of families coming apart, and sometimes, improbably, being put back together. Carter sits at the petitioner's table with a new attorney, a quiet woman named Julia Reyes, who made clear to Carter that she would only represent him if he intended to tell the truth. Carter intends to tell the truth. He stands when the judge addresses him. He's not wearing the Rolex today. Just a suit, a plain watch, the face of someone who has removed something from himself and is still adjusting to the lighter weight. "Mr. Prescott," the judge says, "you originally filed for primary custody modification and submitted evidence, including surveillance footage. You have now asked to withdraw those claims. For the record, please explain your reasons." "The evidence was misleading," Carter says. "The footage I submitted was edited. The woman in the video is Sloan Whitfield's attorney, Marcus Lane, meeting with her in a professional capacity. I had reason to believe otherwise at the time of filing. I understand now that I was given incorrect information by my former legal counsel and encouraged to present that information in the most damaging light possible." He pauses. "I was wrong to file it. Do you understand that this statement may be used against you in related proceedings?" "Yes," Carter says. "I understand." He signs the withdrawal. He signs the custody restoration. He signs the document returning Noah to primary residence with Sloan, effective immediately, with joint custody structured around Noah's school schedule and his own access arranged for weekends and holidays, in whatever form Sloan agrees to, and Noah eventually understands. He does it without drama, without performance. After the hearing, in the corridor, Carter stops beside Sloan for a moment. Not in her way, just nearby. "I'm going to get it right with Noah," he says. "Whatever that looks like from here. I know I don't get to ask you to believe that. I'm just saying it." Sloan looks at him for a moment. "He loves you," she says. "That's not gone. Don't waste it." Carter nods. He walks away down the corridor. No entourage, no briefcase, just a man in a suit walking towards something smaller, and perhaps more honest than what he had before. It is 3:10 p.m. on a Thursday in late November, and Sloan stands at the curb outside Noah's school. She is 10 minutes early. She has been 10 minutes early every day since Noah started kindergarten. She always has a book in her bag, always gets there early, always stands in the same spot near the third pillar where Noah can see her from the door before he even reaches the steps. Today she has no book. She just stands there. The doors open at 3:15. The stream of children begins. Small coats, large backpacks, various states of lunch aftermath on various shirts. She watches the door. Noah comes out holding his teacher's hand, talking, animated about something, the triceratops sticking out of the top of his open backpack. He reaches the top step, looks out at the crowd of parents, and finds her. He stops. For 1 second, he just stands there. 6 years old, looking at his mother, and then he runs. She catches him the way she always does. Both arms, full weight, the solid realness of him, the dinosaur backpack bumping into her shoulder, his arms around her neck, with the strength children use when they mean it. She holds him tight. She doesn't speak for a moment. Neither does he. "I knew you'd be here," Noah says into her shoulder. "I knew." "I told you," she says. "I will always be here." They walk to the car. He tells her everything about his day. A conflict over the good red marker. A boy named Dominic, who can whistle but is annoying about it. Something confusing that happened in math. She listens to all of it. Every word. That evening, across the city, consequences continue without ceremony. Trevor Cole is arraigned on 4 counts of corporate fraud. Bond set at $2 million. He makes bail. But his passport is surrendered. His Mont Blanc pen is in an evidence bag. Gregory Falk's law license is formally suspended. 11 former clients have already filed complaints. Brianna Voss lands in Miami, steps off the plane, turns her phone on, and finds that her management agency has terminated her contract, and her primary brand partnership has issued a public statement of separation. She sits in the airport and opens Instagram, restricted. 800,000 followers, and she can't reach a single one of them. She closes the app. Dorothy Prescott calls Sloane that evening. She asks if she may come for Thanksgiving. Sloane says yes. She opens the door. Marcus Lane is standing in the hallway with his coat on and no legal documents in sight, which, for Marcus, is unusual enough to mean something. He looks slightly uncertain. Also, he is holding a paper bag from the 24-hour diner on Amsterdam Avenue. "Apple pie," he says. "I remembered." She stands back. He comes in. They sit at the kitchen table, signed Whitfield Group documents to one side, Noah's Triceratops drawing taped to the refrigerator behind them, and eat from the container with 2 forks because she can't find the good ones, and neither of them cares. "My father trusted you," Sloane says. "He told me once that you were the sharpest person he'd ever met," Marcus says, "and that I should stop treating you like someone who needed protecting." He pauses. "I've been working on that." She looks at him. Really looks. The way you look at something that's been there all along and you've been too busy surviving to see. 45 years old. Kind in a way that isn't performance. I'm present through every filing, every midnight call, every courthouse step. Not because it was his job, because it was her. "When this is settled," he says carefully. "Trevor's trial, the board restructuring, all of it. I'd like to ask you something. Not as your attorney." A pause. "But not tonight. You're being very careful," she says. "I learned from the best." She almost smiles. Then she does, fully, the real one, unused for too long. "Ask me now," she says. 4 months later, on a Thursday in spring, he does. On the back porch of the Connecticut house, cherry trees in bloom along the fence. Noah somewhere in the yard explaining Cretaceous geography to George Whitfield, who is listening with complete seriousness from his garden chair. She says yes. The company is called Whitfield Group. She runs it. It is doing very well. Sir Carter coaches Noah's Saturday soccer team. He shows up early, every week. He's learning what reliability looks like without an audience, which turns out to be harder and more important than anything he did before. Trevor Cole's trial begins in March. Falk cooperates with prosecutors. Brianna Voss, reached by a journalist, declines to comment. George Whitfield watches his grandson and doesn't pretend to forget a single thing. And Sloane stands in the Connecticut kitchen with coffee and the quiet of someone who has been through a storm and is standing in the light. Not because the storm wasn't real, because she was. And so the story closes. But hey, if you're still here with me right now, at this very moment, that tells me something. Something real. So because people don't stay for a story unless that story is touching something inside them they haven't fully put into words yet. Maybe you've been Sloane before. Maybe you've held yourself together in a quiet kitchen, while your whole world was falling apart. And nobody around you even knew. Maybe you've been the person who kept showing up, kept being steady, kept choosing to do the right thing, even when doing the right thing cost you everything first. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that Sloane would have kept close. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And that's exactly what she did. Not perfectly, not without pain, but she never let the chaos outside decide who she was inside. Here's what this story really taught us. Silence is not weakness. Preparation is not revenge. And the people who underestimate a quiet woman are always the ones most surprised by what she built while they weren't watching. Healing doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like signing a document at midnight. Sometimes it looks like standing at a school gate and not flinching. Sometimes it's just being there, consistently, quietly, unbreakably. If this story meant something to you today, if even one moment made you feel seen, please hit that like button right now. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is your sign. We tell stories like this because you show up for them, and we're not going anywhere. See you in the next one. This story, every character, every name, every situation you just experienced, is entirely fictional. Sloane, Carter, Marcus, Noah, Trevor, Brianna, Dorothy, Ashley, and George are all original characters created for entertainment purposes only. Any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. This content is a work of dramatic fiction, written and produced for storytelling and emotional entertainment. It does not represent real events, real legal proceedings, real companies, or real individuals. All locations, businesses, and institutions referenced are used fictionally and are not intended to represent or defame any actual place or organization. The themes explored, including betrayal, family conflict, legal disputes, and personal redemption, are handled with the intent to entertain, inspire, and encourage emotional reflection. This channel does not promote or glorify harmful behavior of any kind. We believe in honest, transparent storytelling. Thank you for watching responsibly and for being part of a community that values stories told with heart and integrity.